Welcome back to the shop today, guys. Working on another Cat 6NZ. This one's getting a new set of injectors. It's my personal truck. It's '02 379 Peterbilt 6NZ Cat, obviously. 18 speed, 355 rears. So this truck's got just factory 550, 1850 torque file in it. I put these bigger injectors in it. These are the part number on these is a 10R8502. I don't remember. It's like 12 or 15% more fuel flow than stock. Been missing for a little while. I finally got the chance to diagnose it yesterday, but I already popped valve covers off, got the intake piping off of it, and I unplugged the Jake's. It's got 340D Jake brakes on it. So just 2 wires for those. Pretty self-explanatory. 9:30 seconds. We'll take your nuts off your injectors, and then they just unplug like that. So yesterday when I pulled it in, I plugged it in my computer first and couldn't get it to work, couldn't get the cutout test pulled up. So I got lucky. I popped number 1 and number 2 cover off. I took the nuts off the injectors and pulled the wires off and just manually cut them out basically. And I got to number 4, and the truck had been smoking white and missing. Took it off. No change in the sound of the motor, really. I mean, it was like an intermittent miss, so it just smoothed up how the motor was running, and it quit smoking white. So that told me number 4 injector has a problem. So we're going to put it back to stock injectors. Go over here. These are a 10R8501. These are Cat genuine injectors. The injectors in the truck now came from DCI, which is Diesel Control Inc. And the ones in the truck are flow match. These are not. These are Cat. So they got your trim code on them right there. That 3855 1550 5955 2425 2232 2652. Those are the trim code you have to program in your ECM once you get them put in. So what I'll do, I got to re-o-ring these and clean them up before I put them in, but I'll get them put in the truck. And as I like, this will probably go in number 6, so I'll write down cylinder 6, that trim code, 5, that trim code, and so on. That way, when I get my computer up and going, I can get into the ECM and program that trim. Alright, so back over here at the truck. There's kind of a faint red mark there. At one point in time I did set the overhead on this. I actually set it when I put these injectors in this motor. We did a motor swap in the from a different truck into this one. So checking to see if I got number 1 top dead center, number 1, number 6 are running mates. So my valves are loose on number 1 and they're both tight on number 6. So we're in valve overlap on 6, and number 1's top dead center with both valves loose. So we're good there. There's other ways you can set it at top dead center. That usually there's a hole in the flywheel. I got a little tool sometimes I'll put in there if I haven't ever worked on the truck before. But like I said, this one's got that faint red mark in there on the dampener. I always mark them with the belt, and then overhead you got to do an injector, whatever. You can crank her right over, get her on top dead center, and you don't have to screw around. So next thing here, I'll already started taking injector hold down, or not hold downs, but wiring nuts off. I'll take those all the way off. I'll get the jakes off. Those 4 bolts that go through the jake housing is what holds your rocker shaft in place. So we will take all that loose. I was looking at some rust there, sorry. Take all that loose and grab everything up out of there. I try to put everything back in the way it came out. So we'll take the set out of 3, set it back there, make sure it goes back into 3. Same with 2, back into 2, 1 out, back into 1 when we get going back together. So that's kind of the deal. I guess I'll get everything apart, and then I'll show you guys. We'll inspect the cam, make sure it looks good. None of the sometimes these rollers on the your rocker arms can get cavitated, or I've had them lock up before, and that'll eat your cam lobes. So check all that out, make sure nothing's going on there. So stay tuned, we'll be right back. Okay, before I take it all apart, on this particular engine, you got a nut out here, and then those 4 bolts. So this nut is 7/8. Those 4 bolts are 12-point half-inch. And then the injectors hold down, or the, I don't know, whatever you want to call those, harness hold downs are 9/32. Okay, we got everything apart here. Looking at the cam, I just wiped it down with a microfiber real quick to get oil and whatever dirt off of it, and everything looks good. You can see where the roller's right on the cam, but hardened steel, there's no groove or anything. Run your fingernail across it, and doesn't, my fingernail anyway, doesn't catch on anything. So I think we're good. I'm going to be pulling the injectors out next. We take a 9/16 and take that bolt out. These bolts I got new the last time I put, or when I put these injectors in it. I'll reuse them 2 or 3 times. You don't want to use them much more than that, because they are like a torque to yield and they will stretch, but I don't know, you can get away with it a couple times, so that's what we're gonna do. Okay, bolts are out. I'm gonna pop the injectors out next. I use one of these adjustable head snap-ons. I got the big one and the small one. The small one works better for these, manipulate it inside the head a little bit better. Maybe I can. Okay, got it in there. Oh, I had it in there. Back in there now. So it'll focus. Come on. And it just pops up like that. Take it out. Dripping a little bit of fuel. Okay, now I got all the injectors out of the holes. So the fuel that's sitting in the injector rail will go down in on top of the piston. So I made up this piece of hose here. You got a couple pieces of hose for bushings, fuel pipe, and then an air line. That'll go down inside the injector hole. That'll go all the way down in there. There we go. And then that's on top of the piston. That's going to suck all the fuel off the top of the piston. That way you don't hydrolock it when you try to fire it back up. And then when I'm cleaning the injector holes, I'll show you that later. I use that to suck up all the excess BS. They make a tool to do it. We're balling on a budget around here, so he's got the old shop vac wet dry system. I put my little hose deal right in there, hose clamp it down, and it'll suck it out, take the filter out so it don't get full of diesel fuel, and it works. Alright, I got all the fuel sucked out of my holes. Next up, I'm going to get my injector seat cleaning kit out here. This is a stainless steel one. I don't really like it. I'm going to order the brass one. While I'm thinking about it, as soon as I get done with this video, I'm going to order it. Take my big brush first, put it on my little handle doodad here, and then put that down in the hole and try to get as much carbon, and there's a little bit of residue in there from the old O-rings. Try to get all that off. Just anything that could contaminate the injector. Alright, I just finished cleaning my injector. Well, finished using the brushes on my injector cups. Bores, whatever you want to call them. I use the big brush to just clean the majority of the cup, and then this is for down at the tip. You get carbon buildup down there. As I started explaining in the last part of the video, the reason you're cleaning the injector cups is contamination of the fuel system. Anything in there that could chunks that could get into it and mess your injectors up. And then carbon down on the tip. If you leave too much carbon down in there, your injector won't seat all the way. You'll have problems related with that. And then thirdly, you don't want anything down in there that'll cut the O-rings when you're going in. But we'll get back to that later. Next thing I'm going to do is take my straw and my can of parts cleaner and clean all my bores out, or cups, whatever you want to call them, bores. Just trying to get all the oil and fuel flushed down. Carbon broke loose, or what carbon I broke loose cleaning. We're going to get it flushed down into some liquid so it's easier to vacuum up out of there. That'll be the next thing. It's kind of tricky, but can't really video it and show you at the same time, but you're just kind of spraying down in there, getting your straw down in there as far as you can to get up into all the nooks and crannies. Okay, I sprayed all my holes out with brake clean, and I took my vacuum and vacuumed out all the brake clean. Just like your diesel fuel, you don't want that sitting on top of your piston, and it'll hydrolock your motor once you get your injectors back in it and try to fire it up. And you want to suck all the junk up out of there. So now we're taking paper towels. You want some type of lint-free towel. I like just Bounty, works fine, or Caterpillar has a lint-free towel. You can buy from them. You can get them on Amazon, whatever you want to do. All right, we'll shove those down the hole, and they'll kind of soak up any excess liquid, keep any more oil from running down in there, and maybe grab some carbon and stuff when you pull them out. So we're going to do that. Notice while I was cleaning this thing, it's got to be a reman head, because so I can't see it that well. Maybe if I turn my flash on. So that kind of focus it. I don't know if it's going to focus. Anyway, I noticed after I got them clean, some of these injector cups are like stainless, or they're just older. I don't know, they don't clean up as well. My number one, I already shoved stuff in there, but you can see the brass on it, kind of like you can see it on this one here. It's not going to focus, but that one, this one's, yeah, it won't focus, but it looks to be more stainless. You have a harder time getting the crud off the top edge of the stainless. Like that one's brass. It's pretty good and clean. And that one's brass. That's good and clean. So just something that I noticed, I guess. Okay, now we're going to clean the injectors. So we got wire brush here. I just had to clean it off because it looked like somebody used it to clean wet silicone. Really handy. Anyway, my parts washer here. Not exactly a real parts washer, but got a little pressurized sprayer from Matco. full of like the solution or whatever you call it, for a parts cleaner. But need to buy one. I haven't done it yet. But luckily this guy, I bought these injectors used. Looks like the guy cleaned the oil off of them anyway. They're a little dirty. And this one here's got a little rust on it, but not a big deal. It's all below the second O-ring anyways. But we'll get them cleaned up and get the O-rings on them. So an O-ring kit, I had a bunch of these laying around. 248 1394. We'll get those on here, and we'll get them put in. Okay, I got my injector cleaned up here. Hit it with some parts cleaner solution, and then wire brushed it. The nozzle there had carbon buildup. You want to get all that off of there, so your O-ring will seat all the way, and the nozzle will seat all the way down in the cup. So then the next two O-rings will go on there. That's the lower bore gets the blue one, upper bore gets the red one. Hit it with some brake clean after that, get all the particles and dust and whatever off of it. And you want to make sure you get up in there really good. That's your plunger, and it if it gets crap down in there, it'll score, and you'll have a problem. Otherwise, I spray those holes out, brake clean both sides, make sure you don't have any gunk in there. That your feed and your return fuel. So that's the deal. We'll get our O-rings on them, and I'll start putting them back in the truck. Another thing, I use white cloth on final injector, wipe down and all that, because they don't have lint. Same deal with the bores. And I'll use it when I wipe the cam down for the last time. Spray it with brake clean, wipe it down with paper towels, and should be good then. Usually I put a little bit of cam follower lube on when I put the rollers back on. We'll get to that later. Anyways, I use a 90-degree pick when I put these O-rings on. You just want to be careful not to roll them and pinch them or get them twisted. So if you get them straight, then you shouldn't have a problem. Lube them up with, well, I'll show you that later. Okay, got our injectors all O-ringed up, cleaned up, good to go. So I'm going to take my oil lube here. I got assembly lube, 50-50 oil mix, and then you're gonna lube your top O-ring and your second O-ring. And don't do anything with the bottom one. We'll clean my hands up here and smear that around. Covered you all over that O-ring, and then I wrote down here I got the trim code. So this is going to be going in number 6 hole. There. Alright, all the injectors are in. Reused my bolts. They were all covered in oil. Otherwise, if I was using new bolts that were dry, I'd put a little of that assembly lube oil mix on them. So I shoved down on my injector to try to get it down in there a little bit, and then I'll take my wrench in my socket, tighten that bolt down while I push down on the center of the injector to get it seated, and then those bolts will torque to 40 foot-pounds. Alright, so got my injectors in and torqued. I always snug them down, get them seated, and then back them bolt off, and then run them back down or torque them to 40 foot-pounds. So I'm putting my injector harness hold downs on now. They torque to some inch-pounds, not too terribly much because they're plastic and you'll break them. I just use a screwdriver with a socket on it, and it's kind of calibrated elbow. Never had a problem doing that. So that's just kind of what I do, but I'll show you the next step here in a minute. Okay, next thing we do, clean our cam up, clean our rockers up. I like using this camshaft and follower lube. So I'll get that cleaned up, and these rockers, spin all these, make sure they're spinning all the way around 360 degrees. There's no catches. Did notice on this one, number 6, starting to get a little cavitation flaking on that roller. It's getting late in the day. If this was a customer's truck, I'd probably say, hey, we need to get a new rocker, but being mine, it ain't, I don't know. I should do it, but I'm just going to throw it back in there, and when I get a new one and I get a weekend, I'll pull it apart and do it. You just don't want to get it. It's just starting. I don't know, I'll probably take that thing out and try to make sure it's getting lubricated all the way around, and try to mitigate, slow that down a little bit. But I'll just have to throw a new one in as soon as possible. But anyway, we're going to get those rockers put back in, put follower lube on the cam, and then rocker assemblies will go on, then jake brake housings will go on, then torque it. Okay, I got the jake housings on and the rocker assemblies. So there's a nut on the outside, and then the 4 bolts with the 1/2-inch 12-point heads. Oh, this is like a sequence torque type deal. Start with the center, doesn't matter front or back. Torque it to 40. There you go. Torque them to 40, and then I always go to the nut, and then you do your outsides, torque them to 40, and then come back. You go to 80 on your torque wrench, torque these 2 to 80, nut, front and back. You can, I don't remember, you can, I think they tell you to go front, back, but you can do either or. Just kind of, I always do front, back, but you can do back, front if you'd like. Just a little trick, what I like to do, just kind of saves a little time, I guess. I do my 2 centers on all 3 housings, and then I'll go and I'll do my nut on all 3 housings, and then I'll go to switch my socket back, and I'll do my outer bolts, all 3 housings. Do that with both sequences, obviously 40 and then 80, and I don't know, seems to save time, I think. Okay, so everything's torqued down, wires hooked back up on the jakes. Now we're going to start adjusting. I got to take the jake brakes loose yet. I haven't done that before I start the valves. But we got number 1 top dead center, so we'll adjust both the intake and exhaust there. Intake valve on number 2, exhaust valve on 3, intake valve on 4, exhaust valve on 5. 6 is in valve overlap, so we're not adjusting either of the valves there. But we'll do the injector. I'll do the injector on number 6, because you do those opposite of when you adjust the intake. So that being said, we'll adjust the injector, or we'll look at the injector height on number 3, number 5, number 6. These run injector height 3406E and C15 all the way up to the SDPs. Run an injector height of 78 millimeters with a 0.3 millimeter variance, plus or minus 0.3. So I always run them more towards the lower end of that spec because that advances your timing just a touch. I always run them somewhere between 77.7, 77.8, where I like to see them. Get a little better fuel mileage out of it. Runs a little bit stronger. Nothing crazy. You're not adding 100 horsepower or anything like that, but helps a little bit. So then when I get to the end, adjusting the valves, intake's 15, whatever, it's 15 thousandths. Exhaust is 30 thousandths. I'm going to have to look up the jakes on this one because I don't remember. what a 340D adjustment is. Honestly, it might say it on it. I don't know. Well, I'll figure that out. But when I get going adjusting them, I'll try to make a video of how I kind of set the valves and measuring one of the injectors. Alright, it's just a little bit tough here, but that one's just about, well, just a touch too low, but could be a little off on my measurement, but 77.78, pretty good. I'll check it again once I get off the phone here. But I'll probably just leave that one alone. I haven't loosened the nut up on it at all or anything. Check number 3, it was a touch high. Measured it at 78.3, and I took it down to about 77.75, something like that. So that's it. Okay, doing number 1 intake here. I got my 15 thousandths feeler gauge in there. I got it tightened down. There's just a little bit of resistance. I got to wiggle it to get it to move out from under that plunger. So we'll tighten our adjuster back down. That's 9/16 on the nut. And then this particular configuration has got 1/4 inch X head adjuster screws. Some of them I'll use an Allen head like that, that's smaller, like 3/16 or something. The Jake brakes use a 9/16 nut and then 3/16 Allen head. Turn those out. I always loosen them all up before I start my valves and back them out. They'll be kind of hard to turn, and then all of a sudden they'll get real loose. When it gets real loose, that's when you stop and just leave them right there. And once you adjust your exhaust valve, you'll do it the same way I did that intake valve. Put your adjuster down till you got a little resistance on your feeler gauge. Tighten your nut, and then after you get your exhaust valve adjusted, then you can adjust your Jake brake. So I gotta look up and find out what these 340Ds take for an adjustment. But I mean, that's basically how you set an overhead. So I'll do what I talked about here. I'll do number 1, intake 2, exhaust 3, intake 4, exhaust 5, and I already checked the injectors, and I'm going to turn the motor over 360 degrees. That's going to put number 1 in valve overlap. Number 6, both valves will be free. I'll do the intake on 5, exhaust on 4, intake on 3, exhaust on 2, and I'll run the injector on 1, 2, and 4. So that's how you do it.